Hey guys, what's up? Jason up, New 80's Revolution, down here in the cave for a late night video. It's about 11 o'clock here in my room. And I wasn't going to do anything tonight, but I don't know, this daily check-in thing has really got me, it's kind of got me hooked a little bit. So the Whatever Happened To series is now my favorite thing that I do on the channel. Won't replace anything. Everything else that we do will continue to be done. The Saturday Morning Super Show will debut this Saturday. It is done and ready to post. But I want to post it on a Saturday. So, anyway, the Whatever Happened To series always gets me thinking, right? Because this is my opportunity to go down memory lane, one topic at a time, and devote all the time to the topic. But I was talking with my friend Upstate Johnny today, and we're both watching Magnum PI, obviously the 80's Magnum PI. And coincidentally, we're both on season 5 of 8, I think. And so we go back and forth sometimes, and we, hey, did you see that episode? And that one was great, and so on. And I asked today, I said, the show is really good. And I said, do you think it is good, or do you think it's just nostalgia? And that got me thinking about all of this, right? All of the stuff that we talk about and all of the stuff that we yearn for the return of, or this magical opportunity to go back in time and do it all over again. But would we like it, right? Would we actually like doing the things that we did back then? And for this discussion, I'll break it down into like a few genres of stuff about the 80's that I loved then and love today. We'll talk about television. We'll talk about the toys, obviously. We'll talk about the cartoons. We'll talk about the movies. We'll talk about the decor, right? Because, when we did Whatever Happened To Our Childhood Homes, I talked about my fondness of the decor from the 80's. I mean, I'm staring at the big Zenith system, right? Staring at the Zenith System 3 right now with the VCR on top and the Sega Genesis and the Atari on the floor. Do I just like that stuff because it's nostalgic and because it doesn't exist anymore? When we talk about the past, the shows of the past, the movies of the past, cartoons of the past, we always talk about, does it hold up, right? You always hear people talk about, does it hold up? And I hate that phrase, does it hold up? But for the sake of this discussion, do you think the stuff from back then holds up? All right. And the Magnum PI discussion got me thinking. Is Magnum PI from the 80's really that good? I mean, I love it. I absolutely love the show. And I'm going on these binges of series, and I've completed the A-Team, and I'm halfway through MacGyver, and I'm halfway through Magnum PI. And all three of those shows have been extremely enjoyable. But were they? Right? Were they really that great? Or was it just me feeding off the nostalgia? Video games, right? I've got the Nintendo, I've got the Sega, I've got the Atari down here. Do those things hold up? Right? Would I trade in the PS4 or the Nintendo Switch to sit around and play an Atari all day? And for me, the answer to that is yes. Because I dig the simplicity. I never asked for, the technological advancements of anything beyond the Nintendo, right? I'm horrible at modern video games, but I'll sit down here and play Defender all day and goof around on Pac-Man all day, or play, Super Mario 1 or Rad Racer, or, one of my favorite baseball games of all time is Bases Loaded for the NES and World Series Baseball for the Sega Genesis. I'll play those all day versus the extremely confusing MLB The Show, right? So does it hold up? Well, it's not about holding up. It's about what level of intense, gameplay do I want? And yes, I would prefer Donkey Kong on the Atari versus Donkey Kong Country on the Nintendo Switch. Donkey Kong on the Atari doesn't hurt my brain that much, right? Donkey Kong Country on the Switch drives me nuts. If I can't complete a board, I can't get past the boss, I give up. I'm cheating and watching videos on YouTube. I don't need that, right? That's the simplicity that I desire from back in time. The simple. Nobody was freaking out over Atari 2600 Donkey Kong. Nobody cared that much about it. Do the television shows hold up? Yeah. Yes. I don't watch modern TV. I don't know what's on TV. I have no idea. So I prefer to watch stuff from back then because I really like the scenery. I really like the sets. I like the look, the dress, the gear, the cars, the homes, the furniture. I love all that. But I also like can you call Magnum PI, innocent? Well, in comparison to the topics that are covered on television today, yeah, sure. Magnum PI, MacGyver, the A-Team was all fantasy. It was all an opportunity to suspend reality on a Tuesday night from 9 to 10 while you zone out in front of the TV and forget about your hard day of work. Yes, absolutely. There's not a single 80s show that I have ever watched that left me angry or that left me worried about the current state of affairs of the country or the world. They truly are just opportunities to escape. So yes, the television shows hold up. That same argument and concept goes for movies. Movies of the 80s, do they hold up? Sure they do. Because again, it's just a opportunity to escape from reality and not be bombarded with current affairs. And I prefer that. Wholeheartedly, I prefer that. Hands down, I prefer that. Right? The decor, would I really trade my 75-inch 4K television upstairs for the Zenith System 3? This might be hard for some of you to believe, but yes, I would. I truly would. Because again, the simplicity. I didn't have to spend a half hour getting all the picture quality and I had to sit in front of the 75-inch and I had to have like this cheat sheet of how to adjust the brightness and this, that, and that, and this, and how to take it off soap opera mode when I first got it because it looked so stupid when I first tuned it in. And I really hate that, I'm sitting there and I'm watching, a baseball game in high definition and every once in a while our signal gets a little faulty and the picture goes to 720 versus 1080, or God forbid goes to standard definition versus... Really? Doesn't matter. I don't like it. I don't need it. I don't need all the streaming opportunities. I don't even need all the cable opportunities or the satellite opportunities. I would trade that all to go back in time and have my cable system that had 19 channels back in 1985. 19 channels. That's it. Because those 19 channels had to put out some quality programming for them to even exist. I wasn't watching Naked and Afraid in 1985, or My 600-Pound Life was not on in 1985. Okay, so I will trade all that in. And that is why I continued after the original Zenith started going faulty. That's why I went out of my way to get this replacement. I had to have a console TV down here, not for just the look. I needed a functioning television down here so that I could escape back in time and watch the VHS tapes and play the Atari and the Nintendo on the Zenith System 3. I could very easily hook the Nintendo, the Sega Genesis, even the VCR. I could hook it all upstairs. There's like 4 televisions upstairs. I could hook it up to one of them and sit around and watch VHS tapes in the comfort of my, upstairs quarters. But I don't want to. I want to sit down here and do it. So for me, yeah, it all holds up. And I think that's the magic of this channel and the friends of this channel. Because I think the majority of you would trade it all to go back to a simpler time, when we made a phone call before we left the house, where we took a quarter with us in case of an emergency, right? That's the craziest argument for cell phones. We need cell phones in case of an emergency. Well, emergencies existed prior to cell phones, and we did okay. Do I appreciate my cell phone? Do I appreciate my $1,000 cell phone? Sure, I appreciate what it does for me. But, I'd be okay without it. There'd be some adjusting, but I'd be okay without it. I think I'd miss directions. I think that's one thing I would take back with me to the 80s, right? I don't know how to read a map, and I don't want to learn how to read a map. I like my, GPS on my phone. I appreciate that. So we'll bring that back to the 80s, I think. The wrestling, right? We sit down here, we would talk about wrestling with the past, and I sit and I watch, WWF Championship Wrestling, all enhancement squash matches. Does it hold up? Well, forget about that argument. It blows anything out of the water completely. Would I rather watch, Tony Garea versus, Charlie Fulton in a 15-minute draw curtain jerker at MSG? Or would I rather watch, whatever is going on Raw, SmackDown? Would I rather watch Matt Riddle and Roman Reigns? Please, that's not even a discussion. So yes, the wrestling holds up. The only areas that I struggle, and I think it's probably just due to age. Wrestling with the past. Not wrestling with the past. PACW. I don't find myself loving. I don't find myself loving playing with the action figures as much as I did when I was 9. I think that's understandable, right? I have fun with it, and we do it, and we put it up, and we're trying to get through the tournament, and my kids are watching, and that's fun. But I've had these figures for 20 years staring at me, and I never really sat down and dedicated any play time to them. So I don't know if play holds up, right? I don't know. I think collecting has taken over play, and I think that's to be expected for a 44-year-old, right? Almost 45. May 26th, guys. May 26th, 45. Send your cards and letters. I think play is supposed to fade out. Doesn't mean I don't like doing it, but obviously it doesn't have the same fire that it did back then. The other thing that I'm struggling with, and I'm kind of disappointed in myself, and maybe I have to expose myself to it a little bit more. But cartoons aren't holding up. And again, maybe I just need to dedicate a little bit more time to them. Doing the Saturday morning Super Show, hopefully will bring out, the passion and the love for cartoons. But like even G.I. Joe, like I enjoy watching it, but I haven't found myself dedicating time to it. I don't sit around and watch back to back to back episodes of G.I. Joe or the Real Ghostbusters or the tons of other cartoons that I have. Some are sealed still. Some have never been played. And when I was collecting them, when I was getting into this whole world, I was like, oh yeah, we're totally going to watch the cartoons every Saturday morning. We'll sit with the kids and watch them. And that didn't happen. So I don't know what it is with cartoons. They've kind of they don't have the same appeal. Again, obviously, they'd have a different appeal to a child, just like playing with action figures does. But so Saturday Morning Super Show is going to be for you guys and for me, in hopes to re-spark that love of cartoons and really appreciate them. If I'm watching one, I find myself on my phone, being distracted, and then I've kind of just lost the plot and lost interest, and off I go. But so I would say cartoons and play are sort of the things that have not held up for me, sadly. I'm not giving up, don't worry. But all the other stuff has. And I think that's the big deal, that all of that other stuff has held up to the point where I truly would go back and live in the 80s. You've heard me talk about the 80s house. I truly would have a 100%, 98% authentic 80s house, right? I would need to bring a DVD player. And I'd probably, I've got just so many movies on Blu-ray. I would probably have to have at least one modern television, not to stream, but to watch, my Blu-rays and DVDs. The DVD player's hooked up to the Zenith 3, so that would be fine, but the Blu-ray can't, I don't think. Right? I wouldn't need Blu-ray quality picture. If I could watch a Blu-ray on the System 3, I would. On the Zenith System 3, I would. So anyway, that's where I'm. I don't know. That discussion about Magnum PI made me think. So again, for you guys, really, would you go back? Really, would you give up the stuff that you have today to go back and enjoy the simpler stuff we had back then? All you gamers out there, would you give up your PS5 to hang out with Atari forever? That's it. That's all you get. Would you trade your modern furniture for 80s decor? I would. 100% hands down. Absolutely would. I just feel, I think I would just feel better. So what would you? Would you, or do you just like to relive it through channels like mine? Or would you go? Would you go back in time? I mean, it's kind of a, I don't know, what is that, like a hypothetical question? I mean, obviously we're not going back in time. But would you? Would you truly enjoy what the 80s had to offer? Food for thought. Food for thought. We'll be back tomorrow with another Whatever Happened To. I don't know what tomorrow's topic is. Usually it hits me in the middle of the day. I have a few ideas that I'm kicking around. But we'll get at that tomorrow. And all the other stuff. Same stuff. Same channel. Good night now.